Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. And we are now almost a quarter of the way through the 2025-2026 season. And considering we now have somewhat of a sample size to base these teams off of, I thought it's fair game for me to give my updated playoff odds percentage for every single team. We're going to start with the Western Conference because I feel like we already have some teams that are basically eliminated in the West. Meanwhile, the East is kind of a total shit show. And I made sure to double check the math that all of these percentages in each conference equal 800%, 8 teams. So yeah, let's get into it and start at the top in the Western Conference. The Colorado Avalanche, I'm going to go with 99% right now. They only have one regulation loss, and you look at the goaltending, which 12 months ago they had Georgiev and Nunin, who was their clear weakness. They got Wedgwood playing at a Vezina level. Mackenzie Blackwood coming back from injury. It's one of the best goalie tandems on top of the superstar power, plugging that hole at second line center with Brock Nelson. They're going to be a safe playoff team. We're starting off this pretty uncontroversial. Next up, which might be a little bit controversial because they're safely in a playoff spot right now, the Seattle Kraken. I'm only going with 26%. I called them the most irrelevant team in the entire NHL a couple of days ago because even though they are in this playoff spot, one, they're 9-4-5, so they're very reliant on the loser point right now. And I think we agree that this team just isn't going to be a playoff team, and even if they didn't make the playoffs, they're not doing much. They're just a very weird team right now because in all situations, they're second in the NHL in expected goals for and dead last in expected goals against. So they're pretty lopsided right now, and I don't think that that's going to get you into the playoffs in the Western Conference. DeCord's not going to be able to carry this group, play 55, 60 games and put up a 9-10. They don't have the high-end difference makers down the stretch to get this team into the playoffs. Again, it's possible because, again, they built up some points to start this season, but I think 26% is more than fair for the Seattle Kraken. The Nashville Predators, back to a pretty uncontroversial one. I'm going to go with 2%, 6-10-4. They need to start pivoting to how are they going to move off guys like Ryan O'Reilly and Michael Bunting and think to the future because this team, yet again, is just not good. I thought they were going to be better than last year, but still like low 80s. They're somehow, yet again, one of the worst teams in the entire NHL. The Vegas Golden Knights, give me 86%. Yes, they haven't been great this season, and they have been a big beneficiary of the loser point. They have 6 overtime and shootout losses thus far, but they've also had the excuses of not having Aiden Hill, not having Mark Stone. Mitch Marner has fit in well. I'm not that worried about the Vegas Golden Knights. I think that they're going to be a safe playoff team, so I got them at 86%. The Winnipeg Jets, more of the same. They're 11-7 right now, despite not having Sandberg for most of the season. Lowry, Perfetti, still 11-7. Hellebuck is on pace to have yet another, his 9th straight season with a 9-10 or higher. And yeah, their big three is balling out yet again, on pace for another like near career high seasons. So although I have my question marks about this team come playoff time with their second line center position, with their forward depth with Connor Hellebuck in the playoffs, don't really have those concerns in the regular season. So I got them at 80%. The Chicago Blackhawks, this might be a little bit controversial, but I have them down at 13%. They're a fun, fast team. Bedard's breaking out, 26 points, 18 games. Wouldn't blame you if you have him top 5 in your heart right now. Wouldn't blame you if you have Spencer Knight in top 5 of the heart. He has a 924 save percentage. Leshinov has 10 points in 17 games. Don't see anybody talking about that. But it's not very sustainable what they're doing right now. They have a 104.95 PDO, which is shooting percentage plus save percentage. The highest in a given season is usually 102.5, 103. So they're very unsustainable right now. Their underlying numbers are also still like bottom 8 in the NHL. So they're taking steps. Like last year, they were just straight up bad. They're taking steps. They're fun, but they're not going to make the playoffs in the Western Conference. It's not like Kyle Davidson at the deadline is going to be making big moves to get them into the playoffs. So I think that every Chicago Blackhawks fan is thinking we might be in the 80s. Mid-80s would be a fantastic season, but they're not getting that 10 points on top of that to end up making the playoffs in the Western Conference. The Dallas Stars, 97%. This team's a regular season wagon. Got off to a bit of a slow start by their standards, going 3-3-1, but are 9-1-2 in their last 12 games. Rantanen's yet again beating the McKinnon Merchant allegations. Heiskanen's playing at a Norris level. Robertson's balling out in a contract year. The one guy that was struggling for them was Thomas Harley, and he was playing pretty bad, but then it gets revealed that he's been going through like a nagging injury and is just shutting it down, so I'm not even worried about him. The power play has really propelled this team right now. They got to be better at 5-on-5, but historically they have been a strong 5-on-5 team, so I'm not going to massively overreact. They're safely going to be a playoff team. Might not win the Central Division like in prior seasons because Colorado has been so good, but they're going to be 105 to 112 point team. The Anaheim Ducks are up next. I'm going to go at 65%. They got off to a very hot start and built up some points. They have slowed down a little bit, and I still like this team. It's a very fast and free-flowing team under Joel Quenneville. But yeah, they're no longer, I'd say, like if you did this like a week or two ago, they might be like 75%, in large part because there's been another Pacific team that has kind of emerged. But still, with Carlson emerging as a number one center, Josh Stahl's looking like a franchise goaltender, they're definitely going to be in the mix for that third Pacific spot for those two wild card spots. And right now, I would lean that they're probably going to be a playoff team. The Los Angeles Kings, speaking of that third Pacific team, I got them at 75%. They started off pretty slow, 3-3-3. They're 7-2-1 since. It's pretty boring hockey, but it's pretty effective, especially on the defensive side of the ice. And the goaltending is playing better. Quinn Byfield breaking out. I predicted that. And yeah, for the Los Angeles Kings, now that they're back on the right track, I think they're probably going to be a playoff team. Yet again, the St. Louis Blues, I'm going to go at 9%. They did start off very slow last year, and then once they switched coaches, did play at like 107-point pace. I don't really expect that to happen, but it is possible. I think the goaltending has just really failed them right now in Jordan Binnington, in Joel Hofer. Like, don't get me wrong, like other guys need to be better. Pavel Buchnevich, I'm staring directly at you right now. But yeah, they're just put themselves in such a deep hole where they're going to have to play at 105, 107-point pace just to have a chance to make the playoffs. And I don't foresee that happening in back-to-back seasons. Next up, the Utah Mammoth. Give me a 67% chance. They had that 7-game heater. They haven't been that consistent, but I still believe in the team. The top six is absolutely loaded. Sean Durzi needs to stay healthy for the life of him. But what it's really going to come down to is can Karel Vejmelka actually be consistent? He has an 880 save percentage. If you can just be a 900, I know it doesn't sound great, but in modern NHL, that's pretty solid. If you can just be a 900 for them, this team should be a playoff team. They're a very talented bunch. The Edmonton Oilers, 89%. They have not been pretty to start the season. It hasn't just been the goaltending, but obviously the goaltending has been horrendous and will improve. It always starts off utter dog shit the first 2 months of the season. They have an 872 right now. I don't foresee that sustaining. But yeah, they overall as a team need to be better. But they're the Edmonton Oilers. We talk about this like at the start of every single season. They start off slow and then they end up with like over 100 points. So I'm not too much worried. I'm going to go with 89%. I don't have the utmost faith, but they're probably going to figure it out. The San Jose Sharks down to 3%, maybe a couple of days ago before they lost their two most recent games against the Calgary Flames and the Seattle Kraken. You maybe could have sold me at them at like 6 or 7%, but I think right now it does fall down to 3%. Celebrini is awesome, but that defense score is still really, really stinks. And the goaltending has been damn good making up for that defense score. And they're still like a 500 team right now. So yeah, they're not as bad as Nashville. Like Nashville's in such a hole where I think you can go with like a 3% chance. But yeah, it's probably not going to happen for the San Jose Sharks. But like with the Chicago Blackhawks, if they're a 78-point team, that is a huge win for a team that last year was at 52 goddamn points. The Minnesota Wild, 62%. They started off really bad. I almost fully abandoned ship. They were 3-6-3. I was screaming to fire John Hines. Now they're 6-1-1 in their last couple games, and especially at 5-on-5, they haven't allowed a 5-on-5 goal in like 250 minutes or something crazy like that. Puck Empire's been posting about it, so they've been locking down defensively, and their defensive analytics have also improved. They're now at 50%, well, 49.99% at 5-on-5 expected goals percentage. It was brutal to start the season. It was bottom 3 in the entire NHL, but they're figuring it out. Marcus Johansson's like the best cost per dollar player in the entire NHL right now, has like 17 points in 20 games. So Minnesota, I'd still say that they're going to be a playoff team at this point. The Vancouver Canucks, 22%, and I'm probably jinxing them by saying 20, or reverse jinxing them by saying 22%, because I tweeted out during that Tampa Bay Lightning game when Tampa was up 2-0, oh, the Canucks absolutely stink. So if you're a Canucks fan, you love me having them at 22%, but even still, even in that comeback, those goals were absolute flukes. They're a 500 team right now with pretty brutal underlying numbers, like bottom 3 expected goals across the board. Thatcher Demko is already hurt, and although, yeah, other guys have been injured, they're always injured with this goddamn team. So for the Canucks, I just don't see it happening unless Elias Pettersson absolutely balls out and Quinn Hughes returns to he's been very good, and especially his last 2 games, he has 7 points in his 2024 form, but I just don't see that happening for this Vancouver Canucks team, and I think that they are going to miss the playoffs. The last one for the Western Conference, the Calgary Flames, 1%. They actually have very good underlying numbers. It's pretty shocking, but they're 5-12-3 in way too big of a hole. They would have to put up like 81 points in their final 62 games to make the playoffs. I do not foresee that happening, and I think they're going to be selling guys like Rasmus Anderson and Nazem Kadri. So as a result, they sit at 1%. Moving on to the Eastern Conference, starting off with basically a lock, how I did with the Avalanche. In the Western Conference, the Carolina Hurricanes, 98%. They're 12-5-1 right now, despite having multiple injuries to guys like Slavin, Gothisbehere, Anderson at different points in time. This team has been a regular season wagon. They're going to continue to be a regular season wagon, and they're probably going to be the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. The 1 seed right now in the Eastern Conference, though, is the New Jersey Devils. I have them down to 82% just because the injuries are starting to rack up with this team. We've seen that be a problem, much like the Vancouver Canucks. Now Jack Hughes is out for 8 weeks. Still think that they're going to be a safe playoff team, but I am getting nervous because I've seen this so many times with this goddamn team. But when they are healthy, they're one of the best regular season teams, at least, in the entire NHL. The Montreal Canadiens, this one might be controversial. 37%. We could talk about their record versus playoff teams versus non-playoff teams. I've harped on it. We can talk about how Montembeault has kind of turned back into a pumpkin and even Dobesh has slowed down. But what I really want to focus on and why they're at 37% is they just lost 3 core pieces to this team for a significant amount of time. Newhook, 4 months. He was playing damn good this year. Gooley, 8 to 10 weeks now. And Doc, 4 to 6 weeks, as well as Line already being out for like 3 more months. So yeah, missing those core pieces when already, especially your forward core, was kind of viewed as a little bit of shallow. I think it really hurts, and they're already starting to slowly fall out of a playoff spot. They had that great start. You got to beat non-playoff teams, of course, to make the playoffs. But yeah, I think as we go, now that they are becoming one of the more shallow teams in the NHL, I don't think that they're going to make the playoffs at this point. Again, still 37%, still very possible. And again, the East is going to be absolute war. And Montembeault will play better. He has to play better. Like, he's been so goddamn bad. But I'm not sure that's going to make up for all the injuries that the Montreal Canadiens have right now. The Pittsburgh Penguins, I'm also going to go with 37%. I'm starting to believe more and more in this team. Their special teams are damn elite. They're cooking at like 120% when looking at the power play and penalty kill. That's not going to be sustainable, but even analytically, they have some of the best power plays and special teams in the NHL. Shilovs and Murashov look like that they can be a very, very intriguing goalie tandem this season for the team. The injuries are starting to rack up, but yeah, Crosby, Malkin, Letang, all of their old guys, Carlson, still got it at a pretty high level. And right now they are in a playoff spot. Can they play 90-point pace hockey the rest of the way? It's not impossible at this point. The Boston Bruins, 46%. I called them my most underrated team in the NHL heading into this season, and it's been a very up and down kind of season, a big season of winning streaks and losing streaks. But right now, they're 12-8, and especially with them, although Pastrnak is having like a near MVP level performance, he actually is getting some depth scoring compared to prior seasons. Geeky is balling out with 12 goals. Zacha is on pace for like 65 points, and they have 11 players with at least 8 points. I know it doesn't sound like much, but compared to prior seasons for the Boston Bruins since 2023, that is big time depth scoring. The injuries are concerning. Hopefully McAvoy isn't out for a long time. But yeah, I think that this team is about a coin flip to make the playoffs, especially considering Swayman was so bad last year after missing training camp. He's bounced back in a big way, especially analytically. He has like 9 goals above expected. He only has like a 902, but even compared to that, he had 892 last year. So yeah, I think that the Boston Bruins are definitely in the thick of the Eastern Conference wildcard spots or divisional spot, because the Atlantic has been such a shit show, and I'm going to harp on that when talking about the Ottawa Senators, who I have all the way up at 62%. They got off to a brutal start, 2-4-1, because their goaltending was horrendous. Their goaltending still sucks. They have an .872 save percentage right now, but they have just been on an absolute tear. They're 9-6-4, and that is all without Brady Tkachuk. So as long as they can stay healthy, as long as their goaltending can even be an .897 the rest of the way, this team is very well balanced within their forward core, within their defense core, where I think they are going to be a playoff team. Someone like Drake Batherson absolutely having a monster season. Shane Pinto, they should be a playoff team, and I wouldn't be shocked if they end up winning the Atlantic Division at this point. Another Atlantic team, the Tampa Bay Lightning, 70% chance. They also got off to a brutal start, then hit a big-time injury bug, has been missing core pieces the last couple of games. Still over 500 in terms of points percentage. I think that they are going to figure it out and be a playoff team, although it has not been pretty this far. And also, I'm going to be higher on them because they're my preseason Stanley Cup finalist pick. The Philadelphia Flyers, 26%. I think they're going to be a competitive team in like the mid to high 80s. I'm not sure they quite have that upper ceiling to get to like a 95 points. It's going to be required to make the playoffs with Rick Tocchet as the head coach. Zegras has been fun. Michkov has unfortunately not quite fit into the Tocchet system, and the goaltending has slowly started to deteriorate after such a hot start by Dan Vladar. The Detroit Red Wings, 45%, much like the Boston Bruins. I think it's like a toss-up right now. Very balanced team. It's really just going to come down to goaltending. John Gibson right now has an .875 save percentage. Buddy, that is absolute shit. You need to be better than that. Your team invested heavily into you, paying you $6.4 million, giving up a second and a fourth round pick. If he, like with the Ottawa Senators, can even just be like an .898, I think the Detroit Red Wings probably will be a playoff team because of some of the slow starts we have seen within the Atlantic Division. Speaking of the ultimate slow start, the Toronto Maple Leafs, I'm going with 44%, man. The defensive disaster classes that they've been putting on a nightly basis. Guys out of position are just not really giving a damn at times. It has been very concerning. The Mitch Marner replacements have not really lived up to expectations. Now, of course, they have some injuries. Tanev's been out a couple of weeks. Austin Matthews, of course, hurt. Anthony Stolarz has been hurt. So, yeah, for this Leafs team, I think you got to go less than 50% at this point, considering they're less than 50% points percentage right now. I still think you got to respect what they've done in prior seasons, although that was with Mitch Marner, the regular season demon. And I might have to do like a longer video essay if they continue to lose, just really diving into this team. But, yeah, I think you got to have them sub 50%, and I do at 44%. The Washington Capitals, give me 43%. They're only 500 right now. PLD is out months right now. They're having a bit of a shooting regression compared to last year, similarly to a team that we'll talk about very soon. So, yeah, they have not been off to the best start. Someone like Ovechkin not having the same goal-scoring impact or just really effort impact now that he's hit the all-time record and has hit 900 goals. And what is very concerning right now is Logan Thompson has posted a .925 save percentage and 13 goals saved above expected. Guess what their record is in those games? They're only 7-5-1. So they squandered a great start by Logan Thompson this season. And we saw last year, especially, Logan Thompson's numbers really fall off after the first 25 games or so. So that's not good. They're going to have to play around the 100-point pace hockey. The rest of the way, it's definitely possible. But again, when looking at teams like the Bruins, when looking at teams like Detroit that have gotten off to very good starts, I think you got to have the Washington Capitals, in the same range as those teams. The Columbus Blue Jackets are up next. I'm going to go with 30%, similar to Washington. Not quite having the same shooting luck as last season. You look at guys like Fantilli, Monahan, Kent Johnson compared to last season. Now, thankfully, the goaltending has been much better. Greaves has a .904. Merzlikins has a .908. So that's very encouraging. It was like some of the worst goaltending last year. I just still am not really high on this Columbus Blue Jackets team, especially when looking at the defense core, where I think that they are behind some of the teams that are going to be battling for wild card spots. In the Eastern Conference, the New York Rangers, give me 59%. If this team could score a fucking goal at home, they would safely be in a playoff spot right now. They are dominating play. Fox and Gavrikov have been as good as I personally advertised, and I had very high expectations for them. Shesterkin is going to be in the Vezina mix. They just got to finish, and their power play is starting to improve. It was like 30th in the NHL this time last week, and with Trocheck being back, Perreault getting called up, I think that they are going to start scoring some goals. I think they are going to be a playoff team. Not saying they're going to be a 105-point team, but I think they're going to be like a 99, 100-point team, probably third team in the Metro Division, and I have them making the playoffs. The Buffalo Sabres, I got them down to 6%. Similar thought process with Logan Thompson. Well, not the overall team, but when talking about a goaltender actually playing very good and them squandering it. Alex Lyon started the season, or right now he's in .907, and they've been 3-5-3 in those games. UPL can't stay healthy, and even when he is healthy, he's not very good. And yeah, this Buffalo team is already pretty goddamn injured. Josh Norris, I don't even know when he's going to return. It says like 3 to 5 weeks. You got guys like Yuri Kulich, unfortunately, dealing with a blood clot. It's month to month. So the injuries are already starting to hit them. They're in last right now in the Eastern Conference. They're not as screwed as some of the teams in the Western Conference, but yeah, I think they're down to 6% and by far the least odds in the Eastern Conference. Second to last team, the Florida Panthers, 79%. They got to start winning games. Don't get me wrong. They're barely over 500 right now. You can cut them some slack. No Matthew Tkachuk, no Alexander Barkov, as well as losing other guys like Kulikov, Gadjevich, and Noshik. But they need to start stringing some win streaks along relatively soon. Thankfully, again, a lot of teams in the Atlantic are kind of disappointing to start this year. They're still very, very likely to make the playoffs. But yeah, it's even given the context, it's been a little bit of an underwhelming start, especially considering their underlying numbers have been pretty solid. They should have more points than they do right now. But I'm not ready to panic because so many teams have been bad in the East. And then lastly, my New York Islanders. Got the New York Islanders plushie right there. 36%. They're fun. They're fast. Matthew Schaefer is already an elite number one defenseman. Ilya Sorokin is returning to being a number one goaltender, as well as them getting some depth scoring. I'm not sure how long it's going to last just because the defense has been so bad. They're like tops in the NHL in terms of high danger chances against. But they're a fun team. They might end up making the playoffs. The ethical tank is all but dead at this point, and they're going to be somewhat in the mix, much like in 2023 in 2024. But let me know in the comments. That was rapid fire. Sorry I couldn't edit this video. I just had a lot to do today. But I promise every stat that I referenced today is a legit stat, even if I didn't edit it into the actual video. Let me know in the comments. What do you think about this? I'll be seeing you in the next one. Peace.